Start with a little story. Just really briefly, there was a student who we were getting ready to start class. This was before we had this building all redone. We were downstairs one level lower, and there was a classroom down there. And we were between classes. I came in getting ready to start the class, and he was sitting about right here, and nobody else was around. And his name was Philip. I said, "How's it going, Philip?" And he said, "Oh, you have no idea." He always called me Doc. "You have no idea." And I said, I said, "Well, what's up?" He said, "Do you really want to know?" And I said, "Okay, yeah, what's up?" And so he started explaining how right now he's got so many papers that he has to write, and he's got some tests coming up, and he was also having his marriage was being a little bit rocky at the time. Oh, I forgot to mention that he was just sitting there eating some yogurt. You know, he was just having a little breakfast. And he said that he was getting sued by one of his friends. He was in a partnership with one of his friends. They were doing some real estate, and one of his friends, this guy who was his partner, was suing him. He was clearly a stressed out boy. And he said, "So what do you think I should do, Doc?" And I said, "Do you really want to know?" "Well, yeah, I mean, you've helped me before, and we had some conversations before. He said, "What do you think I should do?" I said, "Well, I really think you should just enjoy your yogurt." And I wasn't kidding. I wasn't kidding about that. I want to show you this clip. I just threw this together, and it's not a very high quality video, but I've got a little story that goes along with this that I want to tell you. This is like 2 minutes long. This is a place. We have a place down in about 10 miles south of Cedar City called Canaryville, and there's a trail, there's a hiking place behind it, up in the mountains behind Canaryville, called Canaryville Falls. And we go there 2 or 3 times a year because it's just one of the most beautiful places. And these are just some shots of it, of the place. And I apologize for it not being the highest quality video. But you walk through this. It's ice cold, and so you wear neoprene socks, and sometimes of the year the water's, you know, up to here, so you're walking in this level of water, and this was later in the summer, so the water levels were quite low, but it's really a beautiful place. These don't do it justice at all. But then it's got some slot canyons that are, so like earlier in the spring, it was, you know, hiking through the water up to here. From the high runoff, this was a little bit later this was probably August when we went this time. And it's just such a beautiful place. And I'll just watch this for a second. It's a little bit longer, not too much longer. So you go through these narrows, these slot canyon-like things that are just absolutely, just unbelievably gorgeous. I should have put some music behind this. So you hike through this slot canyon, and I'm with a whole bunch of guys, and you climb up over this waterfall. And earlier in the spring, you couldn't even go up that because there was so much water coming off. But they elected me to go first. Okay, now, the reason why I show that to you, when we were there, when we were hiking up to the falls, and there, we kept going on quite a bit further, but when we got to those falls, you notice I had taken my shirt off, taken my backpack off, and left it, and I left it there, and we all went up above the falls and hiked quite a bit more, and I had forgotten, I put my shirt and backpack down in a little crevice. There was a little place where there was no water, and I, being so full in the moment, I was just enjoying going with, you know, the next steps and the next steps and the next steps. And all of us, there were 6 of us who were there, and then it occurred to me that I had left my backpack, you know, it was a little camelback, just below those falls. And so so we went back to the waterfalls, hiked down, and somebody had stolen my backpack, my camelback. My shirt was still there, but my camelback was gone. My hat was gone. It had a nice camera in it. And so the point of this is, at that point, prior to that, every bit of that hike was very, wow, check this out, look at this, look at that, this is so great. From that moment on, all I wanted to do was find and kill the people who took my backpack. And so, and it's about 2.5 miles from the place where you hook into the trail to where we were. Well, maybe not quite that far. And I decided I was going to, because we hadn't been gone that far, I decided I was going to catch them. Because it was a really nice camelback. It was really nice, brand new almost, and I just got it earlier this summer, been out a few times. I really liked it. And the camera, $250 camera, and so I was kind of, and it had some really good pictures on it. And so I ran literally all the way back, through all that water, through all that beautiful stuff, for 2.5 miles. And all I could think about going back down was what I was going to do to those guys when I found them. I had a pretty good idea who it was, because we only passed one other couple guys, and we talked to them for a second. They were some students at Southern Utah, and we were pretty sure that's who it was, who had taken it. And so anyway, for the next hour or maybe half hour, it probably took me 45 minutes, because you can't go very fast, because you're going back and forth. Here's the river going down, you're kind of going back and forth through it or to the trails that go along the side of it. And the whole time, what am I going to do? And my mind was totally focused on the future, what I was going to do, and the past, how could I have left that there, you know, being all ticked off at myself. And the point of it is, when I got back, and I never saw him again, I missed the entire trail. I missed the entire beauty. I missed everything about the trip back that I got on the way up. And I realized, as I was doing that, how many times do I miss the cool stuff because I'm so focused on the next thing that I'm not doing right now? How many times do I miss out on that? And it occurred to me, I mean, it just reinforced this idea that, you know, whenever I'm in a moment, I can either be in the moment or I can be somewhere else. And the more I'm in that moment, the better that moment is. Does that make sense, you guys? So I want to explore that just a little bit more. We did a really nice experience on Wednesday where you almost had no choice. but to be in the moment. And we kind of talked about the things that we discovered when that happened. But what I want to get to today is how do we make that a regular part of... So that was kind of a contrived situation. We were blindfolded. You don't go around blindfolded every day. We were in a place where it was nicely set up. We don't have that kind of luxury every day. Today I want to focus on how do we make this a practical, an applied mindset all the time, so that when we are doing whatever we're doing, we get to enjoy the journey. We get to enjoy the river, or we get to miss the river and miss everything about it. So these are just some thoughts, and then we're going to... a lot of people have written about this, and I want to just kind of... let's just kind of hook in with me as we go through this. My favorite quote of all time related to mindfulness is this by John Kabat-Zinn. He said, "Mindfulness involves intentionally doing only one thing at a time and making sure I'm there for it." This next one I got from a book called Now and Zen or something like that. It says, "In the Orient there's a story of a samurai who is being chased by a bear. He literally runs off a cliff. As he's falling, he grabs a branch. He looks up and sees the bear leaning over the cliff, clawing at his head, missing only by inches. As he looks down to the ground below, only about 15 feet, he sees a lion leaping up, missing his feet only by inches. As he looks at the branch he is clutching, he sees two groundhogs gnawing away at it. He watches as his lifeline disappears, bite by bite. As he takes a deep, long breath, he notices next to his branch a clump of wild strawberries. In the midst of the clump is a great, red, juicy strawberry. With his one free hand, he reaches over, picks the strawberry, puts it in his mouth, chews it slowly, and says, 'Ah, delicious.' Buddha said, do one thing at a time and live in that moment. And when the next thing comes, go to the next moment and do the next thing." Another one that's a very popular one, I've read this many places. Two monks were walking through the woods when they came upon a woman standing by a stream. "Please, sir, would you kindly help me across the stream?" she asked. One monk silently nodded his head, hoisted the woman upon his back, and walked across the stream with her. She bowed, thanked him, and walked on. The two monks watched her walk out of sight and then continued on their journey. Many miles and hours later, the monk who had not carried the woman said, "I've been thinking, how could you have touched that woman? You know our order frowns upon touching women." The other monk smiled and said, "Oh, you mean that woman way back there? I put her down a long time ago. Why are you still carrying her?" Isn't that great? Martha Graham, the mother of modern dance, said, "All that is important is this one moment. Make the moment vital and worth living. Do not let it slip away unnoticed and unused." And then Robert Persig, in the book Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, said, "Mountains should be climbed with as little effort as possible and without desire. The reality of your own nature should determine the speed. If you become winded, slow down. If you're bored, speed up. You climb the mountain in equilibrium between restlessness and exhaustion. Then, when you're no longer thinking ahead, in other words, you're being mindful, each footstep isn't just a means to an end, but a unique event in itself. This leaf has jagged edges. This rock looks loose. From this place, the snow is less visible, even though closer. These are the things you should notice anyway. To live only for some future goal is shallow. It is the sides of the mountain that sustain the top. Here is where things grow. But of course, without the top, you can't have any sides. And then Mark Twain, the greatest, this is one of the greatest of all time, he said, "I'm an old man and I've known a great many troubles, but most of them never happened." What does he mean by that? Yeah. So many of our troubles we make up in our heads that really aren't. Okay, this next page really quickly, and that I put that in there again. The next one, called Good Fortune. There's a Zen story about a peasant farmer who owned a beautiful horse desired by all others. One day it disappeared. When all the villagers remarked on his bad luck, he calmly replied, "Maybe so, maybe not." A few days later, the horse returned, leading a herd of fine wild horses. All the villagers came to congratulate the man for his good fortune. "Maybe so, maybe not," he said. A week later, his only son was thrown and crippled while training the horses. When the villagers again remarked on his bad luck, he calmly replied, "Maybe so, maybe not." Within a week, a frivolous war was declared by the emperor, and all young men, save the farmer's son, were forced into a battle and none returned. And then, I'm a Star Wars fan, and this came from, I think it was the first one, not the very first one, but number one. If that makes sense. It says, one of the Jedi Masters in the Star Wars films clues us into this notion of mindfulness. The trainee, Obi-Wan, is talking with his master, Qui-Gon, during a seemingly tense moment. You might remember this one. Qui-Gon gives him some wise advice about the mind and where to focus. So he's in it's a really serious situation. Obi-Wan, "I have a bad feeling about this." Qui-Gon, "I don't sense anything." Obi-Wan, "It's not about the mission, Master. It's something elsewhere, elusive." Qui-Gon, "Don't center on your anxiety, Obi-Wan. Keep your concentration here and now where it belongs." Obi-Wan, "Master Yoda says I should be mindful of the future." Qui-Gon, "But not at the expense of the moment. Be mindful." And then this was a comment that I made to somebody when we were talking about this in class, and I gave an assignment for students to do something that was just totally being mindful for an hour. And after it was over, she wrote this comment to me. She said, "Oh, that's a cute idea. That's a cute idea, and I'll try it sometime when I get around to it." And this was my reply to her, because this is not a cute idea. This is all we have. And so many of us are so focused on not here, and we wonder why things don't work out for us. We wonder why we're so anxious. We wonder why life isn't happy and peaceful and content for us. We wonder why. We think we're important by doing something else, or thinking that we're somewhere else. Got to be concerned about that thing coming up later on. This is what I wrote. If you are ever to be at peace, you must come to accept, even embrace what you see in front of you. And the only way to really see what is in front of you is to stop analyzing, stop judging, and stop trying to figure everything out. And just look. Just stop and observe. To be fully present in this moment is to be at peace. To be out of this moment, thinking we're somewhere else, doing something else, is precisely why we feel stress on a continual basis. To say this is a silly idea is to say life is silly. Look at your experience. There is never a time when it is not this moment right here, right now. All of life is successive moments of the present. We can always choose what we want to see in this moment. To choose to be mindful instead of mindless is wisdom of the highest order. It is, in my mind, one of the grand keys, but it must be practiced. So practice for the rest of your life, because that's all you have, a moment. I'll let you read that next one. What I'd like you to do right now is turn to that last page where it says real life scenarios. Okay, and here's what I'd like you to do. I'm going to hook you together with one or two other people and then ask you to focus on one of these items. So let's see. I'd like you two to take number 1, you two to take number 2, number 3, number 4, you two, number 5, you two, number 6, number 7, number 8, and then let's go with number 9, you 3, number 10, you 3, and then let's have, we'll combine forces. You 5 be number 11 and you 4 be number 12. And what I want you to do, for just a minute, I want you to talk to each other. Each of these are kind of typical day-to-day experiences. When I was trying to think of this, I thought, well, what are things that happen to us normally in which people tend to find themselves getting anxious or not fully experiencing or whatever? And since we don't have a lot of practice with this is an opportunity for us to kind of say, well, how would I approach this? What would be my way of thinking in this scenario so that I do stay mindful, so that I get peace instead of anxiety or chaos or stress? Okay, so just for a minute, talk to each other, talk to your group, whoever I put you with, and based on what we've talked about showing up, staying in the moment, focusing on what do we focus on when we're in the moment? What? How do we focus on the present? Okay, in other words, we focus on our senses. Okay, that's the essence of being mindful, is non-judgmentally focusing on our senses and seeing how that shows up. And that includes our thinking. It includes, more than just these 5. Okay, so talk for a few minutes and then we'll have a little discussion about it. Oh yeah. Okay, so let's start, and here's what we'd like to do. So our number 1, so tell us the scenario, and let's all kind of focus on whoever is talking, and let's add to this discussion as you feel inclined. So go ahead, and what did you decide? What did you guys come up with?
Okay, so the scenario is we have two very important questions, and we just came up with the fact that if you only have that one night to study, you need to accept that. You're not going to have the other nights, and so we decided to set a certain amount of time aside for each test. So take one test. And we also talked about, you need to the one that you feel more comfortable with first, so you can just kind of get it out of the way. Take the one test, and just have all the materials out, and just focus on that specific test first, and get it all the way done. And then when you're done with that, get everything out for the next test. So don't try and do them both at the same time, or focus on trying to study for them both at the same time.
Okay, so when are the times when you should not focus on the test? What? Okay, there's one time. When else? Think about what we're saying here, what I'm introducing here. Think about don't go to your, this is how it's always been. I got a test tomorrow. I should be thinking about it now, probably. Ready?
Anytime you're not studying for it or doing it.
Right. The only time that you should focus on your test is when you're studying for it and when you're taking it. The reason why I say that is because, and we haven't gotten into our subconscious mind yet, that we'll be playing with that real soon. if you want Einstein to be turned on during the test, you don't want to let worry pop in there ever. The more you worry about it, the farther away Einstein's going to go. And the more you're going to be in fight or flight mode. So you study for it and you focus. Just like those were great ideas of how to study for it. When you're not studying for it, it should not be in your mind. And how do you do that? How do you make it not be in your mind? What was our law number 1 on Monday? Right. You can only think of one thing. So think of something else besides the test. Should never have to worry about a test again. I know that's, well, sure, right. You've never taken tests. I took a test once. It was 9 hours long. It was 9 questions. And we studied for this test for a year. I'm not kidding. And I saw more people go through more hell getting ready for this test because it was so, and I said, my test is going to be, can I do this test in the most peaceful way possible? And I did just as well as everybody else. You really shouldn't be worrying about the test when you're not taking the test.
What was that in?
That was my, they were called prelims for my PhD. 9 hours, 9 questions. We were in a little box of a room just typing. Okay. You're having a chat with someone. Go ahead. Tell us about this one.
I just wanted to chat with someone who was saying all kinds of mean things about someone else. What we came up with is just being an active listener to the person who is complaining about
Okay.
the person and not being judgmental of this person that's talking or the person they're talking about.
Okay. So in terms of mindfulness, how do you be, and that's brilliant. You know, that's perfect way to show up for that person's unloading or whatever. How do you be mindful in that situation? What would you do next? Good. Beautiful. Beautiful. It's not criticizing them. As a matter of fact, they probably appreciate it that you are noticing how they're feeling. Which is a very here and now thing, isn't it? I notice that you got some, frustrations about somebody. That must really be hard for you. Nice. That's really nice. Okay. Third one. Who did I give that one to? So this never happens, does it? What did you think? Yeah, you're there.
So, Paul had found you going and told you that you were thinking mad about it. You're like,
So you've
you don't need to worry about it.
taken care of whatever you can control.
And then,
Come on, you're going to sing really loud, right?
sing loudly.
I've done this.
What else can you do?
People around you, like, almost get madder because you're enjoying yourself.
I was at home one day and I was like, I'm not saying I do this all the time, I seriously have only done it once. But the one time I did it, it really was a good experience.
Yeah.
I was hungry, but I had a snack with me and turned on my favorite song or whatever, and I had a good time driving home, even though it took me an hour from the far west exit to get to the North Ogden exit, which was like in 3 minutes. Like, whatever.
You can't do anything. You're stuck. You have a choice about what you're thinking, right? So here's remember when we finished the thing the other day, the blindfold thing? What did I say about what percentage of all of the stimuli that's available to us in any moment do we actually tune into? 1%. Now if you're stuck in rush hour traffic, you're in a traffic jam, think of all the things you could tune into. You know, you could, how many cars are there in ratio to trucks here? How many women are there to men driving, and how many are smoking versus non-smoking? I mean, you could do all kinds of interesting observations, buddy.
You want to do something fun? I got stuck in traffic the other day. I motioned to the guy next to me roll down his window, and we just had a conversation.
There you go.
During the whole thing, and we were laughing, you know, like crazy.
There you go. It's a choice. It's a choice.
I
Jason?
think it depends on if you're late for something or not.
Yeah.
Why does that depend? Why is that a factor in whether you are going to be peaceful or not?
Because you're going to start thinking about the consequences if you're late, or you know, if you have to be somewhere, or you're meeting somewhere, somebody that you haven't met yet somewhere, you're showing up late, you know, whatever. It's
Okay.
going to make you feel more stressed out. And
Wait. Time out. Time out. It's going to make you,
It's going.
rephrase that the right way.
It's going to put me in the
Wait, time out. Say it the right way.
right way. So I'm going to become.
Choose.
I'm going to choose to be stressed.
There you go. And what did we say? You can only think one thing at a time. And the second one is? Nope, the other one. You're free to choose anything you want to do. And if you're choosing to be stressed, this is so perfect what Jason's saying, because we always think, well, this is going to make me upset. And in this class, we can't say this to people out there because they'll think we're crazy. But in this class, we say, I'm stuck in rush hour traffic. That's a hard one to say. I'm stuck in rush hour traffic, and I'm late, and I'm choosing stressful thoughts about it. Erica?
Well, a perfect example of what he's referring to is this morning I was delayed, and I knew it was going to take a little while for me to walk over to class. And of course, at first I thought, oh no, I could be physically active, that would be on time. And then I thought, but I want to get to class, and oh wow, and it was a really nice walk, and I'm late, and I feel pushed back because I don't want to be late, but
You're choosing to feel bad. She's electing bad feelings about what she has created, and that's her choice too. You know, she has no idea what I'm thinking about her. She has no idea. Nor could she know unless she asks me, Mike, were you really upset? And even if I were, she could, well, you're upset. Well, that's your problem. Right? Take some responsibility.
anytime I have to, whether it's because I'm late or because I have a big check, I typically go through all the consequences that could be possible. And never is it, they're going to kill me because, like literally, or I'm going to die, or, I mean, I guess I could be fired, but it hardly ever is those things. And once I get to the last, what is really the worst thing that can happen, that's when I can usually say, it's okay. And
I can handle that.
I can handle it.
If you can handle that, then the next thought should be, well, if that I can handle, then I might as well just still enjoy this ride. I might as well enjoy this walk. I might as well enjoy whatever's in this here and now, since I have a choice. Yeah.
So I have a question then. So how do you account for, like, because I agree with you completely.
It's hard though, huh?
Huh?
It's hard though.
Yeah, something like, I don't know, I was talking with my mom about it last night, and so she brings up all the, I don't know.
Devil's
The
advocate
devil,
stuff.
yeah, the devil's advocate. So I agree with you completely about there's some things that are outside of your control as far as like if you're delayed in something that you can control or you're stuck in traffic. But how do you account for responsibility? Because I know, like just talking with my mom about it, she was frustrated, like in the sense like you can't just go through life and always just be the moment and not be held responsible for future things that you're not meeting your obligations to. Does that make sense? So not that I'm saying that you purposely were late. That's not what I mean at all. But like if it was your fault, if you did something to be late, and it's something you're consistently doing, or I don't know, something along those lines, but then you're just always stuck in the moment of just like, oh, well, like, I'm going to be late anyway, I might as well enjoy it, which I agree. So how do you account for, like, responsibility? So not that I don't agree with you, but I'm just wondering, like, where the line is.
So you be responsible.
Yeah.
You decide that you will do things that allow you to be responsible. And then when you're in the moment of choice between being responsible or not, you choose to be responsible because that's what you choose to be.
But I guess I'm wondering if, this sounds bad, but I wonder if some of that guilt you feel or stress that you feel aids to you being more responsible because it acts as like a deterrent for not being responsible. Does that make sense? So like I'm saying, I'm wondering if some stress or some feelings of guilt for not fulfilling obligations or different things that you were supposed to is somewhat needed to make sure that you stay on track with being responsible. Does that make, I don't know.
Absolutely. And let's clarify. There's a difference between importance and taking responsibility and following through on what you say, keeping agreements, and including a threat, a perception of a threat into the mix. There's a difference. I'm all for keeping agreements. You know, if I say I'm going to do something, one of the most powerful ways that I maintain my sense of value is by keeping agreements, by doing what I say I'll do. That's different than letting a past thing that I can't do anything about fill up my present moment so I miss out on what this moment is available to me.
So I guess the difference is just like if you were late because of something you did, you just say, okay, like I recognize that, I need to change it for the future, but not attach like a everybody's going to hate me for it type thing.
Yeah,
okay.
That's all the stuff you're making up about it.
Because that's what I'm just wondering, because I agree with you, but I do think that it could be I'm just trying to figure out where the lines are.
Yeah, and see, easily you could go all the way to, and I bet this is what your mother's thinking is, well, I'm just going to be a hippie, you know. I'm just gonna hang out and let life happen to me, and I'm gonna, you know. And to me, that sounds like, well, waves are gonna happen, and they'll keep knocking you over as you're just. We ride the waves, and that takes a little focus. That takes a little determination. That takes a little. How did I ride the wave last time so that I blew it? So now I can ride this one, you know. But when we're riding the waves, we're not riding the one we did before or the next one, we're riding this one. Totally involved in this one. And if that means being responsible or proactive or moving toward our goals, then that's where we are. See, the problem that I have with most of... We see people who live their whole lives thinking they're being responsible, missing out on their whole lives. Because they're worried about, well, the next thing is probably when things will get better, and the next moment is when things will get better. And it never is any better. The next moment is the same as this moment, and if you fill up this moment with as much of it as you can, you know, like getting in tune with how cool is this that we're here, and really enjoying it. Yesterday I went for a bike ride for an hour and a half, and I crashed probably 5 times. My legs are all beat up. And I realized as I was riding, you know, I ride up and down. There's no flat places anywhere around here. They're all up and down. And while I was riding, there's these trails up above North Ogden where I ride, and if I take my mind off the trail for a moment, then I hit a rock and I crash. Especially coming down. There's no chance of me going, well, I wonder what I'll do in class tomorrow. Because if I do, bad things will happen. But the thing that I noticed, and it happens every time, and you all have noticed this too, I'm certain, that when you do totally enjoy that ride, the ride becomes even better. The experience of it expands. But when we take our mind off of it and put it somewhere else, then we don't get any of it. Does that make sense? And however we choose to do it according to our values, that's what we do. You know, and if your value is be responsible and create, you know, excellent outcomes, but stay there with it. Absolutely. I saw another. Oh yeah, Maggie, go ahead. Thanks.
I think it comes down to recognizing it in the moment, but not carrying it with you throughout the day. Solve it right then and there if it happens, and then let it go. It's not something you're going to beat yourself up about or feel bad about the whole rest of the day. Recognize it, decide how you're going to handle it better the next time,
Yeah.
and then move forward.
Yeah. That's such a good question, though. I mean, because it's very easy when you look at this from a distant perspective, not really understanding the whole thing, to say, well, you're just being frivolous. You know, you never accomplish anything by doing it that way. Right? I mean, that's an easy way to think. If you don't understand, the essence of it is everything you do, give it all you've got. In that moment, be totally in it. And enjoy it, or cry. It doesn't matter what you do in it as long as you're there. Because that's where you always are. We'll continue with these next time, but I want to give you an assignment. Okay, read this with me. This says, this is called mindful eating. It says, the typical way of eating, see if this applies to you or somebody you know. I had a friend who, I used to repossess cars. That was my job. And it was great. It was the second funnest job I've ever had. We would go out at night at like 3 in the morning and steal cars from people legally, and then take it back to the bank. And but we would, before we'd go buy these cars, or before we'd go and steal the cars, we would have pizza. Like at midnight, we'd go get a pizza. And my friend, his name is Joe, he's still one of my really good friends, he would eat half the pizza in the time it would take me to eat one slice. He just would inhale it. It would go into it, just gone. I'd say, Joe, do you have any idea what you just ate? He'd say, it doesn't matter. Joe is enormous. So, typical way of eating is to thoughtlessly shove food into our mouths, take a few brief chews of that food, and send the only partly chewed food down to the stomach to work overtime in those portions that have hardly been broken down. It's no wonder we get tired after a meal. If you think about how small is a capillary, and how big's the hamburger that you swallow, and how much work it takes to make it small. This exercise breaks us out of that mode of eating. For this assignment, pay attention. For this assignment, you will go by yourself to a place that serves food that you love. Doesn't matter what kind of food or what kind of restaurant you choose. It only matters that you are by yourself and that the food appeals to you. You're going to experience this food mindfully. This means you'll focus on the experience of eating your food to the exclusion of everything else. You'll deliberately chew your food, focusing on the taste of each bite as it combines with your saliva, touches parts of your tongue to explode with taste, and gets broken down bite by bite. You'll focus on the joy and wonder of allowing this food to literally become a part of you. Tune into all the smells and varieties of taste that you encounter. If you do this in a hurry to finish because you have seemingly more important things to do, you fail. Remember, when we are acting mindfully, no moment has more importance than any other. When you're finished, go somewhere else and thoroughly write about your experience of mindful eating. Turn this in on the day it's due. Okay, let me say 2 quick things. Not only do I want you to be by yourself, that means don't bring your cell phone along. And for some people, that's harder than eating alone. So, no cell phone, no anything, it's just you and food. And that experience of being with the food. Okay? You'll have your hour or so with the food, and then you'll go and write about it. You'll go back to your computer and you'll write about your experience. I want you to be thorough. I don't want this to be, well, I went to McDonald's and had some fries and it was great. See ya. Okay? I don't want that. Yeah. This will be due next Wednesday. Okay? We will spend one more day playing with mindfulness. I think we'll try to finish these off on Monday. Yeah, I'd prefer they be typed. Well, the only difference, the one alternate would be if you make the food yourself, which many have in the past. Some of us can't afford to even go, and that's okay. I understand that. But if you do decide to make it on your own, make sure you make it and you eat it and nobody else is around. So it's a totally you and the food experience.